story could bring glory to God? Tell it like it is. No judging, just transparency. To someone else, your story might not sound like it has a happy ending, but God says for His children, the end is greater than the beginning.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Divine Intervention. I am your host, Earlicia Young. I pray that your week thus far has been blessed and that you are resting and relaxing and trying to make the best out of your weekend. As always, I want to extend my sincerest condolence to anyone who may be bereaving in this hour, and also I speak healing right now to anyone who may be sick or suffering from some type of sickness. On today, we're going to start on a new topic. On last week, we ended our topic on setup or setback, and basically what we were elaborating on was how to tell the difference, because sometimes we think that things that appear to have set us back were actually an opportunity for us to be set up to be catapulted into something better. But it's up to us what we do in the midst of whatever it is going on, because we know that anything negative we can turn into a positive. So it's all up to you. But always know that in the midst of what might appear to be a bad thing, know that it's an opportunity not only for you to show growth, but it's also an opportunity for you to share the love of Christ. On today, I'm going to be talking about what I mentioned, why there are so many different things going on in this dispensation of time. Well, there's a lot going on, primarily because this world is just filled with so many different types of distractions. I referenced on last week about us as Christians. We get distracted from what's important. I was given this analogy. We have a big fire, and that big fire is what's pulling us forward, but we get distracted by all of these different little fires. And what these little fires do, they distract us from the bigger fire. But if we focus on the bigger fire, which is going to pull us forward, it will put out all of the small fires. So that's one of the things that answers the why, because we get distracted off of the things that we need to do that are important. We lose focus. We get distracted for many reasons. And first off, I'm going to start by just elaborating on what a distraction is. A distraction means drawn apart, drawn in a different direction, diverted from its object, perplexed, harassed, or confounded. One of our biggest distractions is what? Spiritual distractions. No matter how young or how old we are, one of our biggest distractions is either we're lusting after something, and lusting doesn't always have to be in a relationship or sexual. We lust after different things. Some people lust after money. Some people lust after, lust basically turns into an addiction. And people have different types of lust in different areas. So it's not always sexual or something to do with a relationship. So let me clarify that. Lust and love. We all have the desire to be loved, but most of us either A, have not experienced real love, or B, we're looking for love in all the wrong places. So A and B kind of run together, because if you haven't experienced real love, you wind up looking for love, and as I said, all the wrong places. That means what? You have people who look for love and they get involved in gangs, and you have people who look for love, they get involved in cults. You have people who get involved in abusive relationships. And it's all because of distractions. At some point, the distraction it started before us. Most of us, you know, our parents were raised in the time where you do as I say, not as I do. So back then, from my understanding, at least from my mother and my father, the parents were so focused on providing that oftentimes the children thought that that was love. They thought that because my parents provided for me, that meant they loved them. I can speak personally on that. My father lost his dad when he was at a very young age, so there was a lot of things he was not able to get from his dad, so he kind of had to figure out things on his own. But one of his primary focuses was, I am going to make sure that my children don't go without anything. So because he was so focused on that, that was kind of like a distraction, because it kept him from realizing that I have daughters, and when I have daughters, that means I need to show them just a different side of me. How many of you know that a lot of our daughters, how they behave when they become teenagers and how they are in their adult life, it is pretty much formulated when they're children, things that they experience. You have some girls who've had awesome fathers, and just because the parent lacked in one area, that does not mean that they're good or bad. It just means that there was a deficit. But because the parent did not do what you had in your mind, what parenting looked like, it distracted you. I know for me, going into relationships, I looked more for an emotional involvement because my father was so focused on providing. I felt like in that area I was neglected. Didn't mean that he didn't love me, because like I said, I didn't want for anything. But that deficit caused me to be distracted. So rather than looking for real love, I was looking for the wrong things. And I hope that this is making sense, because when we've been in an environment where love was demonstrated, where there's, when I say love, like touch, hugging, you know, I love you, all of that different type of thing, it puts you in a different position, especially when you're a child growing up. But when you don't see those type of things for whatever reason, it does affect you in your adult life. And that was one of my distractions, because I didn't have that when I was growing up. I looked for that as I was calling myself in relationships. I was looking for, probably some people say like a daddy. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but it was like I was searching for what then I felt was a void. I had a void in my life because I felt like that didn't happen when I was growing up. That distracted me. It caused me to get in relationships that were not healthy for me, because focusing on that, there were so many other things that came about. But just rounding all of that up, because I was so entangled in trying to figure that part out, spiritually, I was distracted. I said all that to bring it to that. We neglect God's love because we've never experienced real love in the natural. But I can tell you that when I finally had the opportunity to experience the love of God, it changed my life tremendously. And we have to understand that even loving can be a challenge. And sometimes in loving people, you get distracted even in doing that. Because in able to love people, you have to be able to receive that love also. And a lot of us are so busy trying to show love that we forget that we need it too. So when it's reciprocated back to us, we don't receive it, and we wind up hurting innocent people, all because we've never really experienced real love. And also lust can come in the form of love. You can lust after something and actually think that you love it, and you really don't. That's a whole nother topic, so I won't even go there, because we could talk about that type of stuff all day. We are distracted because there are so many things in this world. Used to be things were kind of hidden, but right now social media has put everything out there. They have sexual things in cartoons. They have things. Nothing is a secret anymore. I know growing up, like if something came on TV and we were in front of it, we would just automatically like close our eyes like, oh, we're not supposed to be. But this generation, they already know about it. Because the phones and the things that they see on the internet and their friends and just the different things that they get exposure to that we weren't allowed to get exposed to, because when the street light came on, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever time it was, we had to be in the house. So we really didn't get an opportunity to do a lot of things that this generation does. And also back then, if we did something, we got slapped down. This generation, if you hit your child, they call the police and they want to put you in jail for it. So there's so many different distractions going on in this world till we have lost sight of what is most important, and that's love. Love is the most important thing, but healthy love. If you don't know what love is, then it's kind of hard for you to show it. So some people demonstrate love by being abusive, all because they've been loved in that type of way. You have people who think that molesting other people because that was the type of love that that was demonstrated to them. You have people who get in gangs and sell drugs and different things because that's the type of love that they were exposed to. In those relationships, it was almost like what was familiar to them. For an example, let's take a young lady who's been in abusive relationships. That is very hard because sometimes abuse is not always physical, sometimes it's mental and emotional. But when you've been in those type of relationships for a long period of time, you can get somebody that actually comes in your midst that really, really loves you, and you won't receive it because you thought that love was being abused. You thought that love was being degraded and talked down on. And then going back to gangs, to outside people, they don't feel comfortable. But for whatever reason, when they get with this particular group of people, they accept them how they are. And when they accept them how they are, they reciprocate that, oh, they love me, that's why I can be me. Now, if you revert that, let me fast forward a little bit to the church. When people come into the church, first thing they feel, in most cases, not all, because there are some churches who are filled with love, they feel judged. First off, because when they come in with their clothes not looking the way that people have made up in their mind that you should look when you come in the house of God, so to say, they start judging and they start condemning. And it takes something, a little distraction like that, that takes somebody off of what's important. That big fire that I was talking about. So here we are, we got all these little distractions going on, and it has taken us away from what is important. Now, when I go back to a person who sells drugs, they get attached to the money part. They making money, that they forget that on the other side of that, there's another human being that's ingesting these things in their body. And even though it's a choice, that's killing someone because they don't know the effect that that will have on a person. And I'm just using that for an example. I'm not judging anyone because that's not my place. But when we talk about distractions, that's what I mean. Money distracts you from love. Feeling like people will conform to however you are, that distracts you from, let me rephrase that, God's love. Because sometimes when you get involved in those type of arenas, the love is not real. Because that means what? If you love me, then that means you're going to go and do something wrong. In most cases. I've never been in a game. Just know what I saw on TV. I've been around some people just talking about different things. But it's all a sense of belonging. And then like I was talking about in relationships. If a person gives you some type of temporary fulfillment, and especially if it's something that you're accustomed to, you associate that with love. A lot of us get distracted too, and it's been me, because I was trying to figure out how do I connect all of this. I know that I have this God who is supreme and all-seeing and all-knowing. How do I connect with that when you have all of these beings around you, well, religion and tradition saying it needs to be this way and that way? But if this is the love that's being demonstrated to me, and I have a God who loves me so much, which one is which? Because these people say that they serve God, but they're not behaving like a good, loving, gracious God. So how do I find my connection in the midst of all of that? And trying to figure all of that out, that was a distraction to me, spiritually. But then at the end of the day, I realized that I was my own worst enemy because I lacked understanding. And a lot of times when we don't understand a thing, going all the way back to even a childhood, our parents gave us all they had. And if they didn't get certain things from their parents, they gave you all they had. So you really couldn't blame them unless they got like these manuals, which from my understanding from being a parent of 4, there is no owner's manual that says if you do it this way, that way. Because when you have children, let me tell you, they are all different. And you cannot deal with them on all the same levels. You have one who's independent, then you might have one who is lazy, then you might have one who's a straight thug, then you might have one who is just, let's see, how do I put this? Then you might have one that clings to you and is whatever you want me to do, mama. And so you have to deal with each one of them on different levels. And one of the biggest distraction is that easiest child, if we're not careful, sometimes we'll have favoritism. So that's a distraction also, because it causes the other children to be jealous and envious. And so it's the little things that light big forest fires. Our job environments, they're distractions. When you're the one that's going in there, oh, it's just a lovely day, and then you got somebody that just come in there who just got beat down. I'm like just trying to mess up everybody's day. And that has just thrown you all off. But the blessing in that is, one day you're going to realize that that person had some environmental things going on. So they were distracted from the workplace, the people in it, all of that. The love that they were being shown was not healthy for them. And unhealthy love, it trickles over on other people. There's a saying, hurting people hurt other people. loving people, love other people. But how do you love if you don't know what love is? Is there a course that you can take? No, what teaches you about real love is going through this life. Because there are really some people who are really, really genuine. But you have to ask. You have to ask God to help you discern what's a healthy love and what's actually a love for Him. A healthy love is going to make you better. It's not going to set you back. And then even on the flip side of that, that kind of love, if you're not careful, it can enable somebody because they will get so dependent on you. Do you see all of the different things that I'm talking about on today? They have the proclivity to either be positive and block something negative, or either it's a negative and it'll block something positive in your life. Distractions come very easy. But guess what? You all, out of everything that I said, there is help for that. In the word it says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. That basically means what? We all know that an architect, he lays out a building. So if you want to know anything about that building, you go back to the architect. It is the same thing with a vehicle. You have people who can fix vehicles, but if the person fixing the vehicle really wants to know the operation of that vehicle and how to fix it, they go back to the owner's manual. So the way to help yourself when you're being distracted is to go to your Creator. He knows you. He is the architect for your life, no matter what it is, whether it's something personal, whether it's something with a relationship, whether it's something with a friend, whether it's something with a family member, whatever it is, there is a resolve. Like I said earlier, you focus on the big fire, and the big fire will take care of all of the little fires. We all get distracted sometimes. But guess what? We can get right back on course. We don't have to give in to the distractions and the things that come. Because we have to remember, we live in the world. Who's the father of this world? Satan. So that means that we are in spiritual beings, in natural bodies, living in a world that is crazy right now. So how do you avoid all of these distractions? You have to stay focused on the big fire. If you don't know what the big fire is, that's Jesus Christ. That's God. They're both one. And it tells me that at any given time, when we feel like we've been distracted enough by this world, that we can go to Him and we can confess everything to Him, and He will accept us into His arms. He created us, yes, but He is not going to step in the midst of whatever you having going on without you acknowledging Him and giving Him access to it. It's much like when you become an adult. You're not just going to give anybody the key to your house, but you can give Jesus the key to your mind, the key to your heart. And I assure you, when He goes inside, He's going to go in there and He's going to clean everything out and make sure everything is okay. He said that He will be with you always. But He never told you that things wouldn't come up, that we wouldn't experience sorrow or pain, or that things wouldn't be given to us and then taken from us. We absolutely have no control in this life. But the most important thing that I want you all to remember on this day is distractions are good and they are bad. We have a big fire with a whole bunch of little fires. But if we focus on the big fire, it will put out all of the little fires. As a matter of fact, the big fire can draw all of the little fires and they will become one. Because once you have a glimpse or you get close to the big fire, your life will change forever. I hope that something was said on today that helped you or encouraged you or enlightened you on today. Came on a little bit late today, but however, you know, things come up. But it's not the time, it's the obedience. So no matter what, do what you were created to do and do it to the best of your ability, and God will take care of you and meet you the rest of the way. But in spite of whatever you do, be authentically you. Again, this is the divine intervention. I love you all. God bless.